If you get to a certain level of frequency resonance and this has not been resolved, meaning that you're trying to, with your mind, use frequency work to get to those things, it can create a tremendous distortion in your field. Because what happens is you have you resonating at a very high level and spirit level. You're still doing the work, right? It's still happening at frequency resonance, but you haven't resolved this mind piece of lack where you're trying to use your will to get somewhere because fundamentally you feel like you're not enough, right? That creates tremendous polarization in the system. Why? Because at that high level, really surrender from strength is the state to be in, right? The more you use your will to push, that's not surrender, right? So surrender and pushing with your will are kind of opposite. You couldn't get more opposite places to be because one's really from the mind and pushing, and the other is to surrender only to pure source. So like I'm saying, you can create a tremendous amount of polarity in your field, and people, when they get to a certain level, I've seen it in like just a couple of people where they start to detox really hard because their system comes out of coherence really hard. Does that make sense? You've got a very high resonance and then a very low one, and they start to do this to the system, right? Because they can't sustain. So what do you have to do? So to resolve it is to be like, okay, well, you're actually not in surrender. Does that make sense? The two frequencies are very opposing to each other. Yeah. So to resolve it, you have to address the mind. You have to address the fear. Like, what are you afraid of that you feel like you know what I mean? Keep pushing to get here, you know? And so once you resolve that by going through the fire of looking at those distortions, usually it's fear and attachment, honestly, because we're human, like generally speaking, that's what it is. Yeah. And it can be terrifying, right? To look at some of those patterns of like scarcity or not-enoughness or loss or whatever it is, those heavy things. You have to go through the fire of dealing with those things that cause the lack in the first place. Then you have resolution, and all of a sudden now the system can spin up into a higher level order.